everyone. I'm Stephen J Garvey, founder, leader of National Citizens Alliance, NCA. We're officially eligible federal party and should be officially registered next week when one of our candidates is officially registered in one of the by-elections. So that's very exciting for our members and supporters and bodes well for 2019, which we will be running, and I'll be running as PM candidate for NCA. And please join us. We are true grassroots, true uncontrolled opposition, federal opposition. There's no such thing as this in Canada. It's all controlled opposition in Ottawa, all controlled. They're all part of the same club, part of the Privy Council, all pushing the same globalist agenda. So tonight I'm just going to rehash the important presentation I did last night. This is on Davos 2019. And I went through a lot of information, so please refer to that video to get more details on that presentation. Tonight I'm just going to recap the main points because we feel it's important that Canadian families get the information. It will allow them to make better decisions for themselves, their community, for our country. So that's why we do these things, to get the facts out there. And Davos 2019, quote, it says global agenda. That's right out of their overarching document. And it says globalization 4.0, shaping a new architecture for the world, ... So this is all about global world order, global governance through the UN. And I will showcase that tonight. And I will link this back to Canada and our involvement with this global world order agenda. This is not made up. This is happening. And remember, it's all about transformation. Transformation of the world, transformation of Canada. And that's what's happening. So the first thing everyone needs to know, Davos World Economic Forum was founded in 1971 by economist Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab. He was a high-level UN bureaucrat, high level. For example, 1993 to 1995, he was a member of the UN High-Level Advisory Board on Sustainable Development. In 1996 to 1998, Schwab was vice chairman of the UN Committee on Development Planning. So this guy is really entrenched in the United Nations. That's the first point you need to remember. Number two, at the 1999 Davos World Economic Forum, the principles of the UN Migration Pact originated. That's where they originated, out of this so-called World Economic Forum. They should actually change the name to Globalist Forum or something, a Global World Order Forum. That would be more accurate. Point number three, the World Economic Forum fully supports the UN Migration Pact. And they say that online. It's there and it's in the video from yesterday. And I have to stress, by extension, they support UN Agenda 21 and UN Agenda 2030. And as we've stated before, Brian Mulroney signed us onto UN Agenda 21, and Stephen Harper signed us on to Agenda 2030. Remember, the UN Migration Pact is a very specific document. It is aligned to the overarching document of UN Agenda 2030, and UN Agenda 2030 is aligned to the greater document UN Agenda 21. So just getting rid of the UN Migration Pact, just getting rid of that, it still leaves UN Agenda 2030 and UN Agenda 21, which is being implemented on all levels of government. So it does very little. Just remember that. And the National Citizen Alliance is the only party running in 2019 that will withdraw Canada from UN Agenda 21, UN Agenda 2030, and the UN Migration Pact. Just going after the UN Migration Pact does very little. Number 4, the actors behind the World Economic Forum. And we posted a list yesterday. Basically, they are numerous UN entities. It's unbelievable. All kinds of UN entities, UN Population Fund, UN on ecosystems, all a whole bunch of lists. Unbelievable. The IMF, the World Bank, and a whole bunch of other globalist institutions are the actors behind the scenes, behind Davos 2019, the whole Davos World Economic Forum. Point number 5, the partners of Davos 2019. These are all globalist corporations. They might be manufacturers. They may be automobile producers. And then you have globalist investment companies like Goldman Sachs. And then you have globalist social media giants, Google, Facebook, PayPal, etc. And then you got the globalists like Soros, Gates. And then you have the ultimate globalists, the Rockefeller Foundation. And these are the partners for the World Economic Forum, Davos 2019. So this is just all the globalists. You got them all in this one room. They're all pushing this world global transformation. And it should be noted, point 6, there is a widening gap between the haves. And what I mean by the haves, I'm not talking about the 1%. I'm talking about the 0.01% and the have-nots in terms of the global economy. And there was recent findings. Global billionaire wealth has grown from 3.4 trillion to 8.9 trillion in 2017. So it has more than doubled the wealth of this 0.01% of the world. And these are the globalist elitists that are pushing this transformation, which obviously benefits them. And in contrast, in 2018, the poorest half of the world saw their wealth drop by 11%. So we're getting increased disparity between the haves and the have-nots in the world. It doesn't seem really fair to us. This is how it's going. Top-down governments, global world order dictated by these globalist elitists. And those are the facts. This isn't made up stuff. So now let's look at Canada and Davos. Canada joined the World Economic Forum in 1982. And this year at Davos 2019, at least 4 federal ministers attended the World Economic Forum. I don't know what they were doing. They claimed they were promoting Canadian economy. It seems like they were just mingling with the globalists and strengthening the transformation of Canada and pushing this global world order. Justin Trudeau attended in 2016, during which he spoke about the importance of big top-down bureaucratic government, which is pretty much aligned to the global world order agenda. And we know that he met with George Soros, globalist George Soros. Obviously, he probably met with a lot more globalists there as well. We know Stephen Harper attended in 2012, in which he spoke in his address about a major, quote, transformation of Canada. He also talked about sustainability and demographic changes in Canada. So this is all the lingo of these globalists, of the global world order, of the United Nations that Harper was parroting at the World Economic Forum. And it should be noted, Canada is undergoing profound, dramatic, radical demographic change. And this is all planned and organized through sustained mass immigration, which every party in Ottawa supports. That's the main engine, mass immigration. National Citizens Alliance stands opposed to mass immigration. We want it ended. We support 50,000 or less total immigration per year. We have no issues with immigrants, but our focus is the Canadian people and our country. It's not about catering to people in other countries. Sure, we will accept a certain limited number of political asylum seekers, legitimate ones, but this is about the Canadian people and our country. And we believe we need to provide greater incentives for larger traditional families, and that's something we support and will implement. It should be noted as well, Bernie was part of this globalist club as well. He attended the World Economic Forum in 2008. He claimed to focus on international collaboration. What's that? International collaboration? It sounds more like global world order agenda. And he claimed to focus on reconstruction of Afghanistan. And it should be noted as well, a U.S. report came out in 2018 exposing billions of foreign aid wasted coming out of Canada, America, and other countries on Afghanistan. And this was due to lack of oversight and endemic corruption in Afghanistan. And Bernie was overseeing all the millions and millions of your tax dollars going to Afghanistan that was simply wasted. Why do we put up with these career politicians who are incompetent, who are wasting your hard-earned money? It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. But we stand in true grassroots opposition to these career establishment politicians in Ottawa who are fully behind this globalist agenda. The facts are very clear. There's no denying that. And I'm just going to close here. The National Citizens Alliance, NCA, is focused on the Canadian people, our country. That is job number one. As a party, we reject the UN global governance as articulated by UN Agenda 21 and UN Agenda 2030. Go look those up for yourself. Just in your search engine, just type UN Agenda 21 PDF and you'll come to that document. And go look up UN Agenda 2030 PDF. Go look it up for yourself. It's all in there. It's all on climate change action. It's all about global communism. It's all about open borders. It's all about erosion of Canadian sovereignty and citizenry and replacing it with global citizenry and global world order, open borders. That's what it's all about. Go look it up. Davos is a very good example of the globalist forces at work that seek to undermine Canadian citizenry, Canadian sovereignty, dictate our consumption, our lifestyle, our values, our beliefs, and they seek to dictate the composition of our country, who we are as a people. They're seeking to dictate that, and it's all coming out of Ottawa and other levels of government who are all on this UN global world order agenda. This isn't made up. Do your research. We stand in full, uncontrolled opposition to the globalist agenda. The Canadian people have never, ever been asked directly through a referendum whether they support UN Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, even the UN Migration Pact. So this is wrong. We stand in uncontrolled opposition. And I have to be very clear. The roots of this UN globalist agenda are very deep in Canada. And we could just look at the Canadian Maurice Strong. He was a corporate globalist. He's actually a member of the Privy Council, the Queen's Privy Council, which Harper, Bernay, Hassan, Rempel, Mulcair, Mulcair, and Martin, Chrétien, all these globalists, liberal conservatives, are on this Privy Council, Shadow Council, which dictate to the PM and Cabinet, Treasury, RCMP, Judiciary. They're all on there. That's the globalist club. He actually came up with the idea for the Earth Summit in 1992, and out of the Earth Summit in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro, that's where the Agenda 2021 was created, UN Agenda 21, which Maruti signed Canada onto. It should be noticed as well, Louise Strong, a former Supreme Court Justice, is the UN envoy for the UN Migration Pact. So the roots are deep in Canada with this globalist agenda, especially since Pierre Trudeau. It is what it is. We got to face it. Canadians are being dictated to. Our country is being rapidly transformed into what we call a UN-like globalist village. It's happening every day through the mass immigration. Forget about illegal migration. That's bad enough. But the mass immigration is what's really doing the transformation to Canada, plus the erosion of freedom, the open borders, all this. And another main vehicle is controlled opposition. And that's why these globalist politicians, career politicians, are so arrogant, so detached from the Canadian people, because right now they have a monopoly on power in Ottawa. And right now there's 5 parties in there. They're all controlled opposition. They're all pushing the globalist agenda. They're doing spins, some of them, to pretend that they're populists when they're really not. Do your homework. Do not listen to the spins. Go to real alternative media. Get the real information. Share our information. We're just sharing facts with you. And I have to be very clear. If you support the status quo, the globalist status quo, the transformation of Canada, we're National Citizens Alliance is not a good fit for you. But if you want to shake up Ottawa, shake it up. And it's pretty entrenched crony, because only 2 parties have been in power for 151 years. If you want to shake it up, then support National Citizens Alliance. Donate to us, become a member, run in 2019, volunteer, share our message with all your friends. Do whatever you can to get our message out. We are true grassroots, uncontrolled opposition. This is a fact. The globalist mainstream media, they either vilify us or they don't cover us. So we rely on the Canadian people to get our message out, to grow, and to help drain and replace these globalists out of Ottawa. Shake up Ottawa. It needs to be shaken up big time. And this will be great for the Canadian people, our country. There's a lot of corruption, cronyism in Ottawa. A lot of money is flowing out of our country, and it's not just Trudeau and the Liberals. It's been going on for decades and decades, regardless of what party, what color is in power. So this is great news for Canada. And I want to thank you for joining me tonight. Please share this message. And I want to wish you all a great weekend.